was born to be the ultimate symbol of British unity, a man meticulously sculpted from childhood for a lifetime of silent duty and unwavering neutrality. So, what could possibly compel a future king to declare open war on his own government, shattering 70 years of tradition in a single, defiant act? This is not a story about the palace gossip. It's the story of a constitutional bomb that just detonated at the very heart of the British establishment, and the fallout is only beginning. The afternoon was set for a grand display of diplomatic unity, a high-profile reception at the historic Lancaster House to mark Commonwealth Day. Over 300 guests were already assembled, a glittering sea of ambassadors, foreign dignitaries, and political heavyweights, with cameras poised to capture the seamless partnership of crown and state. But just 15 minutes before Prince William was scheduled to arrive, a message from his office at Kensington Palace landed like a grenade, stopping everything cold. The Prince of Wales would not be attending. There was no polite warning, no diplomatic spin about a sudden illness or a scheduling conflict, just a blunt, shocking refusal that left the Prime Minister's office utterly and publicly humiliated. Officials scrambled, desperately trying to invent plausible explanations for confused world leaders who were all asking one simple, devastating question. Why had Britain's future king just snubbed them in front of the entire world? The embarrassment was immediate, public, and global, a diplomatic catastrophe playing out in real time. But the real shockwave came hours later when palace sources confirmed the terrifying truth behind the boycott. This was not a mistake or a last-minute crisis. This was a deliberate, calculated act of rebellion. Prince William had reportedly told his most senior aides that he could not, in good conscience, share a stage with a government he believes is actively trying to destroy the constitutional role of the monarchy. These were not just words spoken in anger. They were a declaration of war from a man who is supposed to remain eternally above the political fray, a silent guardian of the nation's continuity. The timing of this rebellion could not have been more explosive. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government had been aggressively pushing a series of radical proposals to slash royal funding and, most critically, to give Parliament a veto over royal appointments and official activities. While ministers publicly framed the plan as simple modernization, palace insiders were using a far more sinister term: a slow-motion coup against the crown's sacred independence. Leaked documents had already revealed plans to gut the sovereign grant, the financial mechanism that funds the monarchy's official duties, by tying it to performance metrics determined by politicians. Even more alarmingly, the proposals would force the royals to seek government approval before making major speeches or undertaking crucial international tours, effectively turning the king's representatives into state-controlled puppets. William's boycott was his thunderous answer. To grasp the magnitude of this act, you must understand a core, unwritten principle of the British system. Working royals never, ever make public political statements. They are trained from birth to smile, shake hands, and collaborate with whichever government the people elect, regardless of their personal feelings. The institution's very survival depends on this sacred, almost mystical distance from partisan politics. William had just crossed a line no heir has dared to approach in nearly a century. The last time a senior royal so openly defied a sitting government was during the Suez Crisis in 1956, when Queen Elizabeth II reportedly had a series of intensely fraught confrontations with her prime minister, Anthony Eden. But even that monumental clash happened behind the firmly closed doors of Buckingham Palace. For William to boycott a government event in the full glare of the world's media places him in uncharted and treacherous territory, a constitutional minefield from which there may be no easy retreat. The immediate fallout was absolute chaos. Foreign Secretary David Lammy was reportedly blindsided, his office only learning of William's absence through frantic back channels. A complete and catastrophic breakdown of diplomatic protocol. Arriving cabinet ministers were forced to walk into a room of staring international guests, all asking the same deeply uncomfortable question: where is the Prince of Wales? What was supposed to be a showcase of British leadership had devolved into a public spectacle of constitutional warfare. Then, as the evening wore on, William dropped the statement that confirmed everyone's worst fears. Kensington Palace released a carefully worded message, diplomatic in its tone but nuclear in its meaning. The prince spoke of his solemn duty to defend the nation's constitutional foundations and uphold the unique role his family has protected for generations. He stressed the vital need to maintain the independence and dignity of the crown. That single word, independence, was the key. Legal experts immediately understood the coded message. William was publicly accusing his own government of attempting to subordinate the monarchy to Parliament. He was alleging a plot to turn the crown from an institution that stands above politics into a mere political football, to be kicked around by whichever party holds power. This wasn't reform. In the eyes of the palace, it was a quiet execution of the monarchy as it has existed for centuries. Inside the halls of Westminster, panic began to spread like a virus. Labour MPs, who had broadly supported the government's push for reform, were now privately terrified. They were picking a fight with the royal family at the worst possible time. Princess Catherine's approval ratings were soaring in the high 70s, and Prince William himself is one of Britain's most trusted public figures. Meanwhile, Starmer's government was already struggling with approval ratings languishing in the low 30s. Declaring war on beloved royals while your own numbers are tanking is widely seen as political self-destruction. Even government insiders began to break ranks. One backbencher, speaking anonymously to the press, called the entire affair an unforced error of historic proportions that handed the opposition a political gift they couldn't have dreamed of. Another described internal government WhatsApp groups as ranging from deep concern to outright panic. The government had made a fatal gamble, assuming the royals would never dare to fight back publicly. Now that they had, Starmer's team had no plan B. And William was not fighting alone. Sources close to other senior royals revealed that Princess Anne and Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, the family's quiet workhorses who complete hundreds of engagements a year without complaint, were equally furious. Princess Anne, known for her fierce devotion to duty and a no-nonsense attitude inherited from her father, was reportedly livid about proposals that would gut funding and hamstring the very work that keeps the institution relevant and connected to the people. Serious discussions were now underway about coordinated action. The unthinkable was being considered. Multiple senior royals potentially refusing to attend any government functions until the proposals were withdrawn. Think about what that truly means. If the senior royals boycott government events across the board, the entire machinery of British soft power grinds to a halt. State dinners for visiting world leaders require a royal host for protocol. Diplomatic receptions rely on royal presence for prestige. The honor ceremonies that recognize British citizens cannot proceed without a royal participant. The system, which runs on an unspoken partnership, only works if both sides cooperate. And that cooperation had just been terminated. The British public, watching this unprecedented drama unfold, had already chosen a side. Social media exploded with hashtags like #I stand with Wills and #Chichards save our monarchy trending globally. An overnight poll delivered a devastating verdict. 68% of Britons backed William's position. Only a paltry 14% supported the government pushing forward with its reforms. Even among Labour's own voters, Starmer couldn't find a majority, with only 31% supporting his stance. These weren't just bad numbers, they were career-ending. The Conservative opposition leader, Rishi Sunak, immediately saw his moment. He pledged his party's total and unwavering support for the monarchy and promised to reverse every single one of Starmer's proposed changes if he returned to power. Whether he truly meant it was irrelevant, the move was politically brilliant. In the 72 hours following William's protest, the Conservative Party's polling numbers jumped 7 points, their best performance in years. Starmer had single-handedly handed his opponents the perfect weapon. But beneath the political maneuvering lies a deeper, more existential problem. The monarchy, for all its symbolic power, needs government funding. The sovereign grant is paid from the profits of the crown estate, but requires parliamentary approval to be released. If this fight escalates, both sides face mutually assured destruction. The royals need the funding to perform their duties. The government needs royal cooperation for the vast web of ceremonial and diplomatic functions that are essential to the British state. This is a standoff with no winner, only losers. If William pushes too hard, he risks dragging the monarchy permanently into the partisan swamp, the very thing that could destroy the institution he is trying to save. If Starmer pushes too hard, he triggers a full-blown constitutional crisis that will define and likely doom his entire premiership.